64ゼルダの伝説ムジュラの仮面
Welcome folks, I'm Livid. Released by Nintendo on the N64 back in the year 2000, The Legend of Zelda Majora's Mask is a follow-up to the critically acclaimed Ocarina of Time. And I never beat it as a kid. Back then it was scary, strange, and I couldn't understand its themes. But it's now 25 years later, and I think I'm ready to give it another shot. This video will be all about my experience playing through the game from start to finish and giving my thoughts and opinions on it. I will be collecting all the masks in the game, but I won't be 100%ing it. If you end up liking the video, please like, comment, and subscribe. It all helps and shows me you want more. Majora's Mask was helmed by Eiji Aonuma rather than longtime series director Shigeru Miyamoto, although he still was there as a guide sometimes. Aonuma had 1 year, to create the follow-up to one of the greatest games ever made. So of course, we got a really safe story that didn't rock the boat too much, right? Nope, we got an eerie, dark, strange, and emotional parallel world of Termina. And Termina is about to be destroyed in 3 days by a moon that is slowly and menacingly descending toward it. Yoshiaki Koizumi was the assistant director who was known for driving the game's darker tone and emotional impact. This really tight development window inspired the team to be creative with the time they had. They leaned in on a 3-day cycle time loop to use the same locations but move people and events around within it. And then they used tons of assets from Ocarina of Time, which led to seeing a lot of familiar faces that weren't quite the same as the people we once knew. After saving Hyrule in Ocarina of Time, Link sets out in search of a lost friend. I don't think they come out and say it's Navi, but it is because Navi's not there, and they do Navi's little jingle when they explain what Link is up to. Link is traveling through the Lost Woods on his noble steed, Epona, when he's ambushed by Skull Kid. It's the same one that Link has met before when they used to spit flute tunes at each other back in Ocarina of Time. But this time, Skull Kid is wearing a powerful mask, Majora's Mask. Skull Kid steals Epona and the Ocarina of Time. Then the game starts. That's pretty quick, and I've always enjoyed starts like this. But there's also a lot of questions swirling, like why is Navi gone? Why is Skull Kid attacking me? And where'd he get that mask? And of course, where's my damn horse? The gameplay already has an immediate urgency that makes you want to rush headlong after Epona. One of my favorite details I loved as a kid, and I still love today, is when Link jumps from platforms, he's doing sweet little flips and vaults. It feels really fluid, and I always liken this to Link just having so much experience from the last game, he could just whip out moves like this casually. In Link's mad rush to get to Epona, he falls down a hole, which I believe is the moment where Link is falling into the parallel universe known as Termina. There is even a cool psychedelic trip happening as he descends. Skull Kid and his fairy companions Tattle and Tail are there to meet Link at the bottom, and this is where you really start to get a sense of how much of a jerk Skull Kid is with the mask's influence. He implies he got rid of the horse in a permanent sense and shows he has no sympathy about it. Skull Kids are a type of being, there's not just one. Legend has it they're actually formerly normal children that got lost in the woods and transformed into this state. They're already known for being mischievous tricksters. But you can tell there is something much more sinister going on with this specific Skull Kid because he's acting so sadistic about things like Epona. And if that wasn't enough, Skull Kid displays how powerful he is by transforming Link into a Deku Scrub. Keeping with the design of moving things quickly along, this transformation is how the game works. Link will be able to transform into different forms in order to help the citizens of Termina by helping prevent the impending downfall of the moon, which is what Majora's Mask ultimately wants. The transformations completely change the gameplay. Link's height, race, and capabilities all get rearranged when he dons these masks. For now, Link is stuck as a Deku Scrub until he finds a cure. As Link travels through the cave, it acts as a tutorial to how Deku Scrub capabilities work. You can burrow into flowers to fly up high into the air to travel to the next platform, or shoot bubbles from your mouth thing. Skull Kid was accompanied by his two fairies, Tattle and Tail. Tattle gets separated as Skull Kid maniacally laughs and wanders away from you. Then Tattle is forced to join you because you both are now looking for Skull Kid. Tattle now acts as Navi would in Ocarina of Time, a fairy companion that helps inform you about the game world. What makes Tattle different than Navi is she's a jerk. She's so mean in the beginning to Link, and I just get choked up a bit because poor little Deku Link is just sitting there while Tattle goes in on him. Tattle will lighten up as the game goes on though. The end of the cavern gives way to the inside of the clock tower, revealing the happy masked salesman. Someone we know from Ocarina of Time that just offered a bunch of side quests also involving masks. He travels far and wide in search of masks. Unfortunately, Skull Kid, who the happy mask salesman likes to refer to as the Imp, stole a very important and powerful mask. If he didn't seem creepy enough, he mentions that he's been watching us for a while and can return us to normal if we retrieve the mask and bring it back to him within 3 days. In 3 days is when the moon will destroy Termina, so I guess that's a good timeline to work with. The search for the imp is on. This is where we are introduced to Clocktown. It's the central hub of Termina, a bustling town that has a lot going on. Workers preparing for a carnival, people busily going about their days, travelers coming in to trade, quiet areas for calm contemplation, multiple minigames and side missions to participate in, and discrimination. Everyone in this town hates Deku Scrubs. The guards won't let me leave the town because I have nub hands and can't hold a sword. The Bombers, which is a child gang of punks, says Dekus aren't allowed. And even the dogs hate me. Jokes aside, what I like about this, not the discrimination in general, but the idea that people see you differently based on what form you're taking. It's probably not every day you see a Deku Scrub zooming around, so they aren't sure how to interact with you. The different form also means Link interacts differently with the environment, not just with his abilities, but even something like opening chests. As a Deku Scrub, he literally has to hop inside the chest to receive the item. It's little details like this that help sell that you really are this different form. The hunt for Skull Kid consists of doing a game with the Bombers, who give you a code to the Astral Observatory. This is not only where you get an item essential to progression, but also where you hear one of the best video game songs ever written. The tier obtained is what you need to exchange with a fellow Deku who can retire off of it, I guess, and lets you use his flower to get to the clock tower where Skull Kid is. The clock tower will open to Link in the last few hours Termina has left. You confront Skull Kid, who is pretty eager to see the moon finally crash into Termina. Link uses Bubble Beam attack to get the Ocarina back with only 5 minutes to spare. Once the Ocarina of Time is taken back, Link will have a flashback to Zelda. This is one of those scenes I've always liked since childhood. It's kind of sad but also optimistic at the same time. This flashback causes Link to remember the Song of Time used to reverse the clock back to the first day. I guess the Ocarina of Time also takes on a comfortable form depending on who's using it. It's just funny seeing Deku Link pulling out not one, but a hydra of pipes when using the Ocarina. Just before Link plays the Song of Time to return to the first day, Tail yells out a warning that we must go to the 4 corners of Termina: swamp, mountains, ocean, canyon. After Link plays the Song of Time, he's transported back to the first day of the cycle. This introduction sequence is critical for laying out how the game functions. You do as much as you can to stop Skull Kid before time runs out. And when you're about to run out of time, you reset the clock with the Ocarina of Time. The irony for me is Majora's Mask makes me interact and think about time much more than the game called Ocarina of Time. Link then goes back to the Happy Mask Salesman to report that he got the Ocarina. In order to help us with our quest, he teaches us the Song of Healing, which restores Link back to his original form and leaves behind the Deku Mask. This song heals evil magic and troubled spirits, turning them into masks. It will be used frequently throughout the game to do just that. From now on, the gameplay will require Link to juggle different forms in order to complete the tasks. Okay, so he's a little bit mad we didn't get the mask back, and I get that. But I need help on this one from you guys. We met the Happy Mask Salesman midday through the first day, and he said we had 3 days to recover the mask. But by the time we use the Song of Time to go back to the first day, we still have those 3 days left, so what's he so mad about? Is it that him and Link kind of live outside of the other wacky stuff going on? The always happy, never angry mask salesman reiterates to Link how important it is to get that mask back. Then he explains its origins. That it's an accursed item from legend created by an ancient tribe for hexing rituals. It is said that an evil and wicked power is bestowed upon the one who wears it. It was apparently sealed away by the tribe itself because it spooked them too. But then our boy just had to go and find it because he likes masks so much. The whole initial Clocktown sequence is genius because it lays out the entire concept of the game to the player in gameplay and atmosphere. For gameplay, it's the 3-day cycle mechanic and transforming. The clock is constantly ticking, meaning you have to manage your time. You can play the Song of Time backwards to slow down time, or you use double notes on the first bar of the Song of Time to speed time up. As far as the atmosphere, the moon is constantly getting closer and closer on the overworld. It has a terrifying face that makes everything feel more tense even when you give yourself plenty of time. The ground and buildings will shake as it descends closer and closer to Termina. The music in Clocktown will pick up its pace over the next 3 days. The moon is figuratively and literally hanging over your head at all times. Even when you've mathed out the time to finish a quest, there is a constant threat of the world ending that makes you want to pick up your pace. It's a constant reminder that the clock is ticking. The gameplay and the atmosphere are mixed. You play more carefully because it's not just about losing some health and you slowly running around to find more hearts. The more time you spend not doing the task you set out to do, the less time you have to complete it. And if you don't, well... I normally don't like games with a time crunch because I don't like that type of pressure. With Majora's Mask, it's different because you can reset the clock when it's about to run out. The pressure to complete a task is still there, but you can still fire up Hydra pipes to start again. After confronting Skull Kid and getting the rundown about the evils of Majora's Mask from the Happy Mask Salesman, we're set free to explore the rest of Termina. The mission is to hunt down ancient guardians hidden away in the 4 temples around the region. They are going to help us stop Skull Kid from what he's trying to do. Now that we're human, we have our sword back, the guards will let us go into Termina Field. It surrounds Clocktown's central position. There's plenty of grass to collect rupees and other items. It's pretty cramped, and even the 4 major biomes are seeping through their zones into this one. It's not as sprawling as Hyrule Field back in Ocarina of Time, but they use the space very well. It's buzzing with activity. There are several different types of enemies, which differ depending on how close to the next zone you get. But none are more dangerous than these bastards, the Takuri. They'll harass you relentlessly and even steal your sword. I hate these things. Termina Field and Clocktown's position within Termina makes everything feel that much more strange. Not to mention the terrifying moon or seeing people we recognize from Ocarina of Time but aren't quite the same. Everything is just so neatly placed. Clocktown in the center with the 4 zones being perfectly placed in 4 different directions from it. It's all too perfect and strange. It's like a wacky dream where it makes sense while you're in it but doesn't when you wake up and realize how things don't really match reality. A real place wouldn't be like this. Everything wouldn't be perfectly centered like it is in Termina. In Ocarina of Time, there are still zones encompassing biomes, but it's spaced out logically like a real kingdom would be. Termina needed to be like this, though, to demonstrate its strange and parallel world nature. As Link and Tattle make their way to the southern swamp, a really important scene happens. Tattle recognizes the drawing they made together before Skull Kid got the mask. She recounts how Skull Kid had been arguing with his friends and that they had left him alone. On a stormy night, Skull Kid shivers under a stump. The fairies, also seeking shelter, cozy up with him for the night. The next day, they frolic and play through Termina. They're doing somersaults and playing music and hide-and-go-seek. Not even the Takuri wants to interrupt that fun. The memorable day when they first met is recorded on this tree. I love this scene because it reminds you that Skull Kid, while not entirely innocent, I mean he pissed off his friends and is a prankster, still has good in him. He didn't have to keep the fairies warm, but he wanted to. The night where he's shivering cold and alone, I wonder what's bothering him more. That he's cold and wet, or that he's alone? I think that he's more bummed out that he's alone. The next day is an explosion of joy because he has friends again. This scene isn't just to give some backstory on Skull Kid and his relationship with the fairy friends. It's important to demonstrate that while flawed, he's not a purely evil creature. He has friends that do care about him and that have seen a different side to him. That the mask he wears isn't his true self and the actions the mask takes through him shouldn't define his morality. The swamp is first on our list to track down the Guardians. In order to get to the first dungeon and awaken it, we have to get help from the Deku Kingdom. They're going through a bit of a crisis right now, and the Deku King's princess daughter is missing, and the entire swamp is filled with poison water. He isn't sure what's happened to her or the swamp, but he's blamed a cute monkey. The Deku King is holding the monkey as prisoner, and the monkey is trying to explain that both the princess and the answer to the poisonous water are at the Woodfall Temple. But the king is too blinded by rage. Our monkey friend needs our help, but we need to get closer to him. I must code switch back to the Deku form and maneuver past the palace guard. And it was totally easy. I had no trouble getting there. Now that I've made it to the monkey with absolutely no delay, he teaches us a melody that opens the temple that he learned from the princess herself, the Sonata of Awakening. Despite it being the royal family's song learned from the princess herself, the Deku King thinks this is yet another ruse. The monkey's punishment has been expedited. I've got to get to Woodfall Temple. Woodfall Temple is hidden deep underneath the swamp. The Sonata of Awakening will pull it up from the depths so that we may enter it and deal with whatever's going on inside it. Woodfall Temple is the first of the 4 major temples in Majora's Mask. It's a spooky setting that has a few themes going on within it. There is of course the swamp setting that it's in, with decaying trees, poisonous water, and tons of bugs. All of that is pouring into an ancient tribal tomb setting, creating a really eerie atmosphere just sublime for a dungeon. The dungeons in Majora's Mask function as you would expect from classic Zelda games. You roam the dungeon unlocking different areas and collecting items. A compass, map, and a unique new weapon or tool to be used throughout the dungeon and ultimately on the boss of that dungeon. What makes Majora's Mask a little bit different is that you're entering each dungeon already having your mask for transforming. In this example, it's a Deku mask. You can't even enter the dungeon without having used it extensively, and the same goes for its usage inside the dungeon itself. The masks actually take much more prominence than the items you'll find within the dungeons, but I like this way much more. Another concept you'll immediately notice upon entering the dungeon is stray fairies. Each dungeon in the game has 15 scattered fairies that you can collect and bring back to a fairy fountain for a reward. Before I give my opinion, these are optional to collect. You can entirely ignore this concept. The gifts given are not mandatory for game completion. But I decided to go for all of them in my playthrough because I wanted to. I was enjoying this game enough that I wanted to experience more of it. My take on it is they could have been done better. There are so many. 15, that's a lot to juggle. And if you happen to run out of time during the dungeon, when you go back to the first day, the fairies you collected will be scattered to their original places within the dungeon again. That is absurd. Backtracking already isn't fun if it's done wrong. Recollecting these fairies all over again is basically doing the dungeon all over again. This is because sometimes it takes solving puzzles or hitting switches all over again to get back to where they originally were. I think the solution should have been to make them key items or at least pool them at the entrance of the dungeon if you need to rewind the clock. And I don't care if this breaks the system because so do key items. The devs were willing to say that certain things were too important to be lost when you went back to the first day. Stray fairies should have been one of those things. The key item within the Woodfall Temple is the hero's bow. It's not much different than the bow in Ocarina of Time and it's simple to use. It does open up the gameplay for normal Link though, as he now has a consistent long-range attack needed for solving puzzles and hitting enemies at a distance. The boss of the temple is Odowa, the masked jungle warrior. He is massive and wields a huge sword. He's so much bigger than Link, his mask is menacing and will chant ritualistically throughout the fight. The chants just made me feel uncomfortable and made the fight have more urgency to it, because I just wanted to beat him quickly so he'd stop. I don't know if he's physically psyching himself up or trying to intimidate me or both. The fight itself can be fought pretty creatively. The hero's bow can be used to stun him while you rush in and attack with your sword, or you can become a Deku and hide in flowers to pop up and hit him. This lets you deal damage from below and avoid attacks. As I start landing more and more blows, he'll start calling in mobs of insects or calling upon ritual fire to consume Link. The most intense moment for me was when he called upon the moths. They swarm you and start slowly chipping away at you. Their presence obscures my vision, making it tougher to see the boss and adding anxiety to the fight. This fight took me down to my last heart before I just barely beat him. Woodfall Temple is short and sweet as a first dungeon should be. With Odowa defeated, we secure its mask and are transported to a strange realm. Odowa's corruption of the temple dissipates, allowing the first guardian to wake and teach us the oath to order. A song that will be immensely important later on to call upon the giants to aid us. The swamp is free from corruption and begins to heal. The waters are now no longer poisonous and even some enemies disappear. This kind of detail is something I really appreciate because you're seeing direct consequences of your actions. If Odowa was poisoning everything before with his corruption, it must then disappear upon his removal, and that's precisely what happens. Going forward, this theme will be followed. The wounds of Termina are healing with Link's help. But the bad part is all those bad things and the boss will come back when you rewind the clock. After the fight, Tattle also starts to reflect on our situation. She deduces that the Guardians are sealed behind the 4 masks around the region and must be freed. She also finds time to credit Link for all of his efforts and kind of apologizes for her past behavior. Just like Skull Kid, her true nature was a bit misunderstood. Her and her brother Tail have kind hearts, but both of them started acting out of character around Skull Kid when he got the mask. I don't think the mask directly corrupted them or anything. I think they just had a friendship and loyalty to Skull Kid, and started to go along with his behavior because they didn't want to lose a friend and probably knew he didn't want to lose them either. The princess has also been freed, and we gotta get her back to save our simian ally. Once safely returned, she corrects her father for his foolishness. The monkey is free. So we've saved a swamp and the Deku Kingdom wants to reward us for our efforts. I think that's fair. We meet up with the butler who has our reward. We just have to follow him through a ridiculous obstacle course that's full of traps and misdirections. And the butler seems to enjoy this whole process. Hey, did I not just save the Deku Kingdom? The butler couldn't have brought the reward to the entrance for me? Okay, you know what? After dealing with Dekus myself, even as a Deku, I'm not saying I agree with discrimination, but when even the dogs are mad at you, I kinda get it. The reward is the Mask of Sense. It's alright, I guess. You really don't use it much at all. The butler then apologizes for what he's just put us through. Not forgiven. It's just that we remind him of his own son, who left home long ago and that would race with him. Somehow, it feels like he was racing with his son again. With the swamp saved, it's time to head to the next temple to free the next guardian, deep in the mountains. The Snowhead Temple region has been completely consumed by unnatural winter storms. Mountain Village and Goron Village have been frozen over and their inhabitants are being consumed by the cold. The Gorons sent their champion, Darmani, up to Snowhead Temple to try and stop the corruption emanating from it. Unfortunately, he died on the way there. With Goron Village frozen over and without their champion, things look dire. That is, until Link shows up. This is where we meet up with the Great Owl who helps guide us to a Goron shrine. It's a pretty cool sequence where the owl is dropping a trail of feathers to guide us to the destination. Inside the shrine is the Lens of Truth, which will reveal invisible objects and beings in the world. As you leave the shrine, the lens can immediately pick up on the once invisible blocks. It's small, but again, great design. Initially, you need the assistance of the owl to cross over to the shrine. This creates a problem you didn't know you had until you're hovering over the sky, trusting our avian ally with your life. As you leave the shrine, the lens is instantly effective and practical. If someone had not played Ocarina of Time where this item was first seen, it didn't matter, because a new player would immediately connect the dots so that the ground they covered could be holding invisible secrets. At the other side of the shrine is a new visitor, the spirit of the legendary warrior, Darmani. With the Lens of Truth, he guides us to his tomb. Once we get there, Darmani explains he was once a proud warrior, but when he raced off to Snowhead to chase off a demon terrorizing Goron Village, he was blown off into a deep valley and died. Though he has died, he cannot rest watching Goron Village suffer. He asks us to heal his sorrows. I know just the thing he needs. As Darmani's sorrows melt away, we see a beautiful scene showing why it was there in the first place. This scene affected me more than most scenes that had come before it. There are, of course, many sad and painful scenes before this one, but seeing Darmani cry with his people at his feet, knowing he can't do anything about it, just hurts to witness. Then, in an instant, he remembers who is there to help him. It's probably easy for Darmani to be brave for his people, to accept the challenge and fight mighty demons. It's hard to accept that you need help. Darmani becomes resolved and allows his sorrows to melt away into a new mask. The Goron mask gives Link a powerful new form as a Goron. Although slow and clunky while walking, he can curl up and turn into a speedy ball of spikes that can smash into things. He also learns the moves Fire Punch, Butt Bump, and Pound. It's a really well-rounded ground-type Pokemon. Oh, wrong franchise, sorry. Darmani can finally rest knowing that Link is here to help. The entrance to Snowhead Temple is treacherous. There is an invisible Goron blowing a mighty wind at you as you try to cross. I assume this is where Darmani actually fell down into the valley. We drum up a nice tune for this big guy and he gets out of the way for us. I climb the snowy spire to find the entrance to Snowhead Temple. It's a vertical design that makes sense for the spire that encapsulates it. There is a massive central chamber with a giant rotating pillar. The goal is to adjust the pillar so that you can collect the necessary items and boss key, and of course find the room to the boss. The Goron mask will obviously play a huge role here. Heavy usage of Fire Punch to smash switches or snowballs. The newfound weight to trigger pressure plates, or to roll across gaps. The new item obtained here is the Fire Arrows. These are essential not only for the dungeon but plenty of places outside of it. They're used to melt the ice covering paths and even a boss. The mini bosses are Wizrobes. They're crazy wizard things that have seemingly lost their minds. Once the pillar is affixed to the proper position, we can confront the evil demon that terrorizes the Gorons. frozen in place awaiting our arrival. A fire arrow calls upon the demon to face us. You race around a circular track trying to bash into each other. There are a few different ways of confronting him, but I preferred the roller derby approach as a Goron to smash into him several times. As you lay on more and more strikes, he'll start pluming smoke and rampaging even more, shaking the cavern to drop rocks on you or even stopping to shoot bolts of lightning. I had to do this fight a few times because once he starts going crazy, it's kind of up to chance whether you'll have enough time and space to catch up to him and hit him, while also trying to not take damage from the falling rocks. The final blow on him is really badass. He rampages even more and smashes into a wall, being crumbled by the rocks that entomb him. We receive his remains and lift its corruption on the temple. We return to the Guardian Chamber to welcome the next Protector God. Now that the boss is taken care of, its corruption melts away from Goron Village and the surrounding areas. I enjoyed this sequence of the game, not for its gameplay, which was fine, but for the start of a weight being carried. The scene with Darmani was a breaking point where I started to really feel for the people of Termina. There was just so much sorrow and sadness, regret, and anger. I felt bad for them, and for Link too. Before leaving the mountains, there is now a way to access the Goron racecourse with the usage of a powder keg. It's a much more potent type of bomb. And these races are bullshit! I mean, who engineered this race? Although you just used a spinny, spiky death ball technique to destroy a mechanical demon bull, it's no match for this race. You race against a handful of other Gorons that absolutely destroy you if you touch any of them. If you bump into them, the wall, a tree, god damn those trees, the race is ruined. You lose momentum and have to wind up the ball again, losing precious time and distance. It's not even close. The Gorons are clearly faster than you, and they will even sadistically slow down just to bump into you. And at one point, they all ganged up on me. They're not even here to race for themselves, they just want to see me lose. After all I've done for the village, I wish I could go back in time and never help these people. Anyway, 2 Guardians awakened, 2 more to go. Our next destination is the Great Bay Temple. Before the 3rd temple is a pretty lengthy build-up. The Great Bay area is sprawling in both land and sea. There is a small fishing village, rocky canyons, a marine research lab, and a pirate fortress. Just offshore floating in the water and barely clinging to life is a Zora named Mikau. Mikau is weak, barely clinging to life. With his last bit of energy, he tells us what happened in the only way he knows how as the leader of a Zora band. Mikau plays a ballad about the lead singer of his band, Lulu, someone he cares for greatly. Her precious Zora eggs have been stolen by the Gerudo pirates of the Great Bay. Without her eggs, she has lost her beautiful voice. In his attempt to retrieve the eggs from the fortress, Mikau was mortally wounded. Mikau has reached the end of the road. His soul must be healed so he can rest easy knowing Link is here to help. In Mikau's sorrows, we see the things most important to him. Lulu appears and they hold hands as they walk back to the band they love playing in. It's not really said, but heavily implied that Mikau and Lulu have a romantic relationship. With his dying breath, Mikau thinks of only Lulu and her eggs. His sorrows wash into the Zora mask. Now this mask is sweet. I think this is my favorite form of the game. It's just so fun swimming and skipping in and out of water. I love getting a bunch of speed and just launching into the water like Free Willy. The Zora form comes equipped with boomerang fins, an energy aura attack, and karate. With this new form, we can retrieve Lulu's eggs from the Gerudo fortress. And this fortress is not messing around. It's full of Gerudo guards that patrol a massive military base. If they find you, they kick you all the way back to the beginning of the base. And there are so many of them. It will take stealth, patience, accuracy with a bow, timing, and some luck to get by this elite guard. Or you can wear the stone mask like I did and somehow they can't see you. Locked away within the complex is one of my favorite items of the N64 Zelda age, the hookshot. Used for grappling you to locations or pulling them to you. The hookshot will be vital to get the rest of the eggs and for the remainder of the game. There are 4 eggs in the Gerudo Fortress and 3 more at a place called Pinnacle Rock. Pinnacle Rock is a bit of a maze to get to, but luckily I had a trusty seahorse. Within Pinnacle Rock are terrifying sea snakes. They're really easy to kill though. Once the 7 eggs are retrieved and placed safely in the Marine Research Lab, the eggs turn into tadpoles who happen to love music, just like their parents. They teach Link the new wave bossa nova. With this song, we can find Lulu, who still has absolutely no voice. But when we play her the new wave bossa nova in the form of her mate, she'll start singing along. This beautiful ballad just so happens to wake up a friendly turtle, who just so happens to know the way to Great Bay Temple. Ah yes, a temple involving water. I can't wait for this one. The Great Bay Temple is the third main dungeon. The central design of this temple revolves around changing the direction of water flow through a series of pipes and valves of various colors. Adjusting these pipes and valves will gradually unlock new areas that hold items that all lead up to the boss. Okay, so this dungeon was difficult for me and I got confused a few times. But I will defend it in comparison to the Water Temple in Ocarina of Time, which I still maintain is a dungeon I don't love to play through. In the Great Bay Temple, there is a steady march toward the end goal that does not require much intended backtracking to readjust anything. Sure, you may get confused and wind up back in an area you've already covered, but the design doesn't make you do it much. Once you activate a pipe, it's good to go. You don't have to return to it. When you push the valves, the activation stone will disappear, letting the player know, hey, you don't have to come back here and do this again. That I can really appreciate. What is more frustrating was when you're in the central chamber, it's hard to precisely swim to your destination, and you can get sucked into unintended chambers that require solving a puzzle to get out of. Ice arrows are the key items found here. They can be used to strike certain enemies in order to freeze them or create platforms on water to help navigation. In this temple specifically, they can also be used to halt the entire flow of water from certain areas. An area I really liked a lot was one that had multiple seesaws that used water to raise and lower platforms. In this room, you use both ice and fire arrows to freeze or melt sections of the water. One of the most terrifying enemies in this game for me was the Bio-Dekubabas. At first, they just look like underwater versions of Dekubabas. I've encountered those millions of times before. But then you sever it from the lily pad it hangs from, and it starts crawling around with these creepy eyes and little legs. I just hated those things. The mini-bosses here are also no joke. There is Wart, a hovering eye with protective blobs. It was a really tough battle for me because its blobs can mass around you and damage you while you're trying to get to the eye. Then it crashes to the ground and will try to ram you. Again, while its blobs are massing to try to consume you. Then there is Gecko, who uses blobs of jelly to throw at you. The larger blob has a huge radius. If you get caught within it, you sit there for like 5 minutes while he kicks your ass. And even when you knock Gecko down, he's actually got really accurate aim when he tosses the jellies at you. The boss of the Great Bay Temple is Georg, the gargantuan mask fish. It will swim around the pool, smashing into the platform and eating you alive if it catches you. I have no excuse on this fight, I just sucked to be honest. But what it did do for me was made me connect the dots on the Zora Mask capabilities. I just wasn't using it to its full potential. During this fight, I became more fluid with diving in and out of water, smashing into him with my aura and launching back up onto the platform to hit him with arrows in human form. Once I actually understood my capabilities, the fight itself really wasn't that hard at all. Georg eventually succumbs to my newfound capabilities. With its mask recovered, we can awaken the third guardian giant. And they say, help our friend. 3 guardians down, 1 to go. Ikana Canyon is the area before the final temple. It's a desolate, rocky canyon that's haunted with ghosts and redeads. It was home to a once mighty militaristic civilization known as the Ikana Kingdom. Everywhere you look are remains of this once proud kingdom. Despite not knowing what this kingdom was about or what its culture even was, I feel sad for it. I do this in real life too whenever I see ancient ruins. It makes me wonder about the people who inhabited those locations and what their country meant to them, if they ever thought it would fall and fade away. Deeper in the canyon is Ikana Village, or what remains of it. It's more shattered and abandoned ruins. Ironically, for an abandoned village, there's a lot of things to do here. A great fairy fountain, a mini game, and a challenge section involving an extensive trading quest in order to get the mirror shield. I had to get beans, milk, bombs, and even a Poe to give to some of these redeads to get this shield. The mirror shield is used to reflect sunlight to activate buttons or burn certain objects. It was worth it as soon as I started using it though. The design is much creepier than in Ocarina of Time with a screaming or terrified look on its face. There is one peculiar house though. It appears mostly well kept. Link finds a cavern that returns water to the region. With the river returning to the valley, it starts winding up the mill of a house/music box structure. This music drives off the redeads. And now that they are gone, a little girl emerges to investigate. This is Pamela, a little girl who's been living out here all alone with death and destruction going on outside, and a troop of redeads circling the home constantly. It's truly terrifying for a little girl. Where are her parents? I need to have a talk with the adult of this house. Why I oughta... Oh my god! It's a mummified something. Well, it's not completely mummified yet, so I play the Song of Healing to see if it can be returned. He is obviously pretty terrified and confused. He doesn't remember anything that's been happening, and he asks, "What have I been doing?" Pamela says, "You haven't been doing anything. You had a bad dream. You were just having a little nightmare." I mean, this is just beautiful. Pamela, this little girl, has been trapped in her house while being circled by Ritas who could just smell the human inside. In a vast, desolate canyon filled with ghosts and other enemies. Within the house she's trapped in is her own father, who's stuck in a closet, clawing at the walls as a mummy. She has no idea whether he'll ever get better. She's been through all of that as a little girl, but when she sees her father terrified and confused, she comforts him. Pamela was strong while she was alone, and she remained even stronger for her father. No kid should ever have to go through any of that. And it would have been perfectly understandable if she broke down and wanted comfort for herself. In a land full of death, destruction, and darkness, Pamela's kind-hearted nature somehow refused to wither. I won't lie, I nearly cried at this part. Pamela's selfless strength amidst the conditions was not something I was expecting. My mind was prepared for the father to snap out of it and tell her it's all going to be okay. And then she says, "You were just having a little nightmare." It's so soft and cute. It sounds like something you'd say to a little kid, like maybe he said that to her before when she's had a bad dream. This is one of the most beautiful scenes in the game. I stopped playing the game for several minutes during the text box of this cutscene. I just stared at the screen realizing how great this game really was, but I had to snap out of it. Termina needs me. With the mirror shield, I can now infiltrate Icona Castle. And through it, I can reach the final temple. Icona Castle is a ruined fortress for the once powerful kingdom and home to its royal family. The music here is great too. It's militaristic and intimidating. The castle is still protected by undead soldiers and powerful spirits. The castle is also a hint of what is to come in the final temple. You'll use different mask forms and items ranging from the beginning to the near end of the game to complete puzzles. I like that the game is designed such that towards the end of it, they actually require you to start using all the skills, items, and knowledge you've gathered. Even the new angle with the mirror shield is great for the symbolism. Icona Canyon has had darkness heaped upon it by Majora's Mask. In order to complete this entire section, Link is slowly bringing light back to the realm. The region heals as Link marches on. But deep in the castle awaits the king himself. Refusing to leave his throne even in death, he is revolted at the intrusion, but even more so by the light the intruder brings. He sends his minions to bring Link to the darkness. This fight initially starts out fine. His minions swirl around trying to poke and slash Link and blocking attacks with their shields. There's a clue to the fight itself in the initial cutscene, when the drapes come down to cover the sunlight from coming in so the king and his knights can appear. The fire arrows can be used to destroy the drapes and bring the light back in. Yet another piece of beautiful design. The really badass cutscene also weaves itself back into the gameplay. Link can then use the light and reflect it off a mirror shield onto the minions. This causes them to entirely evaporate. But then the king himself wants some action. And he is very tough. He can block more consistently with his minions and has a broader strike with his huge sword. By far the most difficult part about this fight is when he decapitates himself as his head chases you around all over the room. Meanwhile, the rest of his body remains entirely invulnerable. The head itself doesn't seem to take damage either, and it would just inevitably latch onto Link until the rest of his body shows up to slash me. Eventually, I found a cheesy way to avoid the head until it returned to its body. The king will eventually need to be destroyed just how his minions were, by knocking him down and reflecting light on him. Once the king is awash with light, the fight is over. The king is finally released from the curse put upon him from Majora's corruption. His head is all that remains of the once proud Dark King. he gives us yet another beautiful line about forgiveness, a theme that is gradually becoming more and more apparent as the game went on, and the theme I found most interesting: believing in your friends, and embracing that belief by forgiving failure. With the dark spellbinding cast upon him, broken by the light Link brought, he can now rest. But before he goes, he teaches us a powerful new song. One that will be used to access a stone tower so that we may seal it shut and return light to the land. It creates loyal soldiers but with no hearts, so that they cannot fall to darkness. It basically leaves a clone of Link in whatever form he's in, and the Link image is creepy as hell. Like, the teeth. Why are they like that? It's a bit of a shock to say, but I actually don't like this song for its music. It's subjective, of course, but unlike everything I've ever heard from Koji Kondo, I just didn't like how this song goes. And I'm gonna dislike this song even more a little bit later, but for an entirely different reason. With this song, we can go to the final temple at Stone Tower. Getting to the Stone Tower won't be easy. The entrance is hidden away at the top of the canyon, and a series of switches need to be used in a correct order to lead the way. Link needs to create several images of himself to hold down switches to create bridges to the next section. I liked this sequence. The puzzles weren't overcomplicated, and some quick experimentation starts getting your gears going on how to create the bridges using the clones. There's also heavy use of the hookshot, which is always a joy for me. Once I got to the top and saw the entrance to Stone Tower Temple, is about the time I got tired of playing the elegy. It's fine as a concept, but the song's notes aren't as simple as other ones. You have to play it and hear it played several times to get to the entrance, but I'm far from done using it. The Stone Tower Temple, the final temple of the game. It's an ancient and mysterious structure. It is by far the most complex and interesting dungeon in this game. Keeping with the hints that we saw in Ikana Castle, you will use all the mask forms, items, and knowledge from your entire experience right here. It acts as a final test to the player, calling upon them to dig deep and remember all those little things that worked in other dungeons. The Deku mask for floating through the air, Zora mask to dive deep, and the Goron mask to punch blocks and walk through liquid hot magma, the hookshot, arrows, and bombs. But most of all, yeah, it's used immediately as you start navigating the dungeon, which I think overwhelms the player by this point. Fortunately, its usage really lightens up as you make your way through the dungeon. The key item for this dungeon is the light arrows. These are used for solving puzzles that need to be struck by them and are also really effective against enemies wrapped in darkness. And most importantly, they're used to flip these ruby emeralds. And that's when my world was turned upside down. Okay, now this is cool. I did happen to notice things being upside down when I was walking around the dungeon, but I didn't really wrap my head around how they would implement this in gameplay. Then it happened and it was great. The entire layout is entirely flipped, which obviously changes how you maneuver through the rest of the dungeon. When everything got flipped, it also somehow made the temple creepier. Certain objects started looking like they had faces. You're now hanging above the sky rather than the sky being above you, steadily increasing the tension as the dungeon goes on with its creepiness. I really liked how some chests that got revealed in upside down locations could then be used for the hookshot. Everything is woven together so nicely. That chest will be opened later for an important item, but also acts as a bridge to the next area. And even the dungeon theme itself is partially played backwards when you're in the upside down. This is called a palindrome. I had no clue what that word meant, but yeah, apparently in this context, it's a song that can be played backwards and sound the same. This is clearly a work of genius considering the theme of this dungeon, and it more than makes up for the elegy of emptiness. As I neared the end of the dungeon, I was astonished to get a second key item, the Giant's Mask. I wasn't sure what I could possibly use this for, but I would soon find out. The boss of the temple is Twin Mold. It's two giant sandworms. They're far too big for me to fight though. That's where the Giant's Mask comes in. Back in my day, we used to turn into Adult Link. In Termina, we turned Kid Link into Godzilla. The weak point of Twin Mold is on their heads and tails. Smashing the ruins around Link will also give out magic, which is important to keep the Giant's Mask's juices going. The fight itself is super easy, but after that really tough dungeon, I didn't care. And for me, a boss fight doesn't always need to be the hardest possible thing that's ever happened. It could be really cinematic like this one. The worms were no match for Giant Link. With their remains received, that's all 4 of the cursed beings destroyed. And that means all the guardians are now awakened. Back in the mysterious chamber, the giants cry out, "Call us. We've helped them, it's time for them to help us." Just before we leave, they cry out something else. Forgive your friend. I mentioned before that forgiveness was the theme I personally latched onto most. And again, I had an almost cry at this. This line from the giants was already foreshadowed way back when we first explored Termina Field. Skull Kid can still be forgiven. Before the final confrontation with Skull Kid, I started knocking out the remainder of side quests for items and of course, masks. I like the side quests involving swords. Back in the mountain village, you can give the gold dust received from the completely ungrateful Gorons to the smithy. They will make you a razor sword. A super badass sword that I see as iconic to Majora's Mask because so much of the marking showed Link with it back in the day. While it is more powerful than Link's normal sword, it also breaks after only 100 strikes, which sucks. You're supposed to turn the razor sword into the gilded sword. A sword I don't like nearly as much aesthetically but is extremely powerful. But there's another sword, given to you by the Great Fairy in Ikana Canyon for retrieving the strays. The Great Fairy Sword. I mean, look at this thing, it's a damn surfboard. I can't stop laughing when I look at Link holding it. This thing is bigger than he is. It's so massive that they made it a C item because only little baby swords can fit in a sheath. It's the most powerful sword in the game. I really like the design with the black roses and the color scheme that reminds me of the Majora's Mask box. There are 24 total masks in the game, but they are not all created equal. Earlier in the video, I sound disappointed at getting the Mask of Sense because it's really not used that much. But as I started playing more and more of this game, I started to completely change my feelings on that subject. Not all masks are created equal. The major form-changing masks are obviously critical to the game and entirely change gameplay. I may have unfairly put my standard as high as those ones. Over time, I realized all these masks have different roles to play. The Great Fairy mask for the stray fairy hunters out there, or the bunny hood to zip around super fast and even jump further. Other masks are seldom used, like the postman's hat or Kamaro's mask. Overall, the masks became mementos of the people I had helped. I don't remember the Mask of Sense for helping to make blue potions. I remember it for racing the butler and how he said I reminded him of his son. The stone mask was extremely useful to basically walk through the Gerudo pirate base freely. However, I think about the soldier who gave it to me more than I do the Gerudos, crying out in vain for years, alone and invisible to the world. The Romani Ranch quest sees you joining up with Romani to stave off thems or ghosts from stealing the cows on the ranch. I mean, they're aliens, but people in Termina don't have Area 51, so they gotta call them something. When you successfully help defend the ranch with Romani, you can team up with her sister Cremia later on that night, as she makes a milk delivery to Clocktown. On this journey, she's attacked by the shitty Gorman brothers, and you defend the cart with arrows. But wrapped up in this side quest is what Cremia is going through. She's the older sister looking after her younger sister, the animals, the ranch, and the family business. The shitty Gorman brothers harass the farm and destroy the Romani products. If Link is not there to defend the ranch, the aliens take the cows and Romani. They give Romani back, but she's obviously traumatized. Cremia is then not able to forgive herself for thinking Romani was imagining the aliens. Even if you do save the ranch, Romani will end up telling Link how she feels bad that she can't go into town with her sister. This is because Cremia has someone in town she loves, and that person is supposed to get married to her own best friend on the night of the carnival. She has to fight to keep her sister safe, to keep the business going, to protect everybody from the shitty Gorman brothers. And after all of that, she has to show up to Clocktown and is stuck in an impossible situation that simply has no remedy. Someone she loves is marrying her best friend, and she has to march right into that place where she's going to see both of them, and she still has to sell her product. No matter what Link does with changing time or events, Cremia will struggle to keep it all together. She thanks Link for all the help regardless and sees him as an adult, giving us the Romani mask. But who is her best friend and the man she loves? The longest side quest in the game is the Anju and Cafe quest. I'll be perfectly transparent, I used a guide for this whole thing. This is because it spans an entire 3-day cycle going down to the final moments. And there are very precise times and places you need to be in order to keep the quest going. The goal is to eventually reunite Anju and Cafe, who are set to get married on the carnival night. A little bit of a snag happens when Skull Kid turns Cafe into a child. In addition to that, the wedding mask he has gets stolen from him. Before we proceed, I've seen some stuff online about this that make it more weird than it needs to be. Cafe is emotionally and mentally an adult, I hate having to point that out because even if you sound logical, it still sounds weird and suspicious having to defend it. It's like how in Dragon Ball GT, Goku was turned into a child but still has a wife and kids. You know, they're just turned into short kings is all. The quest sees Link interacting with both Anju and Kafei to make sure that they reunite. Kafei has been hiding because he's been turned into a child, and shortly after his sun mask was stolen, an important item to the wedding, he's ashamed, scared, and feels unworthy to marry Anju with all that having happened. For Anju, she's having to deal with the fact that her fiancé disappeared. Did he get scared off by the moon? Did he get cold feet? Did he run off with Crimea? Anju was given no explanation for anything involving his disappearance. All the while, she must maintain her day job, try to ignore the rumors, and hold on to the hope that her fiancé will return. Link ends up finally meeting Kafei and aiding him in finding the sun mask. It was stolen by that little weasel Sakon, and the mask has been kept in his hideout. This opens up a sequence I really wasn't expecting at all. You get to play both Link and Kafei. You alternate controlling each one, racing down a conveyor belt before the mask is thrown down a chute. The quest culminates with Link getting them to finally reunite and receiving the couple's mask. What stands out the most for me with this quest is they seem to be genuinely happy despite there being only seconds left to live. Both of them had to deal with this separation in emotionally heavy ways, but with very different circumstances. Once they're finally back together, it's all they care about. They might be the only people happy right now considering the circumstances. Oh, and maybe Skull Kid. I've awakened all the Guardians and collected all the masks in the game. It's time to finally return to the clock tower and confront Skull Kid. The scene plays out identical to the way it did in the beginning of the game, which is a weird feeling. It's only been 3 days to everyone else, but for me it's been like 2 weeks of playing several hours a day. So it was weird seeing the scene again when in the game it was only a few days before, but for me it had been a couple weeks. Skull Kid once again calls upon the moon to consume all existence. Not this time. I play the Oath to Order to call upon my Guardian friends and witness my new favorite cutscene of all time. And that's why you don't skip leg day. The Guardians held strong. Skull Kid collapses from the failed effort, and all appears to be won. Tattle and Tail are reunited. Tattle isn't in the mood to forgive though, she's still pretty upset about Skull Kid. Tail though, despite being the one hanging out with Skull Kid and getting smacked around by him, defends Skull Kid. He was lonely. The power of the mask was too much for him to handle, and it consumed him. Just then, the mask itself becomes sentient. No longer in need of its host, it drops the Skull Kid, claiming the puppet is now garbage. The mask ascends and takes the moon for itself. It wants to consume everything. We have to go after it and finish this. Once Link is transported into the moon itself, it's a really unexpected scene. A beautiful plain with a dream-like haze. It feels almost like heaven. The contrast to everything about this game, Majora's Mask itself, and the moon makes this area feel that much more strange. A single tree is off in the distance, and there are several children playing around it, each one wearing the masks of the different bosses of the game. If you talk to them and hand over precious masks, they allow you to play a little hide and seek with them. This transports Link to many dungeons harkening back to each temple. They are very short and sweet little puzzles that has Link using the form masks one more time before the end. I really like these little puzzles because they weren't lengthy or extensive dungeons. Especially after the Stone Tower Temple, I felt I had already had that dungeon itch more than scratched. Every time you solve the mini dungeon and find the kid, they ask you really deep questions. The face under the mask. Is that your true face? Your friends? What kind of people are they? What makes you happy? Does it make others happy too? If you do the right thing, does it really make everyone happy? Those are all really good questions. That really makes me think. But that last question, if you do the right thing, does it really make everyone happy, is a tough one. Is there a way to know if something is objectively right to do? Maybe not, but even if there was, could that right thing still hurt others and bring them pain or sadness? I think so for sure. Once you find each kid and hand over all of your masks, there's just one remaining. the one at the base of the tree wearing Majora's mask. This child is alone now. As thanks for playing with his friends and sharing your masks, he wants to play good guys versus bad guys. Apparently Majora believes we are the bad guys in this situation and gives us a mask appropriate for the bad guy. The Fierce Deity Mask. I was so damn excited to get this thing. You guys already know I haven't beaten this game before, but I had always seen or heard about the Fierce Deity Mask from friends and the internet over the years. This is one of those things from childhood that I made a rule in my head that I would just never get this thing. It would just take too much effort. I'm not good at video games. I'll never experience getting it in the first place or using it. Yeah, this is just a really special moment for me to get it. With that, it's time to play. With the Fierce Deity Mask, there are now two different ways to navigate this final fight with Majora. The mask will float around a chamber room, spinning down towards Link and knocking him off balance. It has these tendrils pouring out from behind the mask that just make it look extra strange, almost like a parasite. The boss masks make a return and want revenge on Link too. You can pretty easily take them down with some arrows though. After you hit the mask a few times, it will turn into its next form. Majora's Incarnation. This thing is just going crazy, and the music is just silly. It's sporadically running around the room, and it's doing a moonwalk. Hey, I see what they're doing there, I get it. It didn't even really want to fight me. You don't bring dance moves to a sword fight, Majora, come on. This form was simply too easy for Link. How many forms does this thing have? It's basically Frieza. Majora's Wrath is the final form. It attacks with these huge whip-like hands, all the while screaming and screeching like a banshee. This is where the Great Fairy Sword really came in handy for me. I needed the extra damage it brought. With just a couple hits, it was done. So that's one way to defeat Majora. Then there's the Fierce Deity Mask. Link turns into Ultra Instinct Adult Link or something. He gets a magical sword that can shoot energy beams. The sword itself is as powerful as a Great Fairy Sword too. Of course, this mask is very cool, but with it, the final fight with Majora is just a formality. It's so ridiculously powerful. Each phase took literally seconds with it and it wasn't even close. However, as I said with Twin Mold earlier, the journey to get here was the fun part. And it still was an entertaining fight and appropriately strange for how this game has been. As Majora finally falls for the last time, the fight is won. It's the dawn of a new day, and it's a dawn of a new day for me too. For most of my life, I've said Ocarina of Time is my favorite game of all time, and I think that's been true most of my life, until I played this game. We play video games for all sorts of reasons. To pass the time by, to have fun with friends, or to scream at the Gorons at the racetrack. One of the reasons I play video games is to have incredible experiences. It could be the gameplay, story, music, or all of it together. That experience when you put down the controller and you just stare at the screen to soak it in, to feel something important and remember it forever. There are many themes in Majora's Mask that have been covered for decades on the internet and amongst fans. The one I grabbed onto very early was forgiveness. Forgiveness is hard. It's hard to give and receive. It hurts the most when it involves people close to you, like a friend. Unlike a stranger, a friend knows what makes you happy and sad. They know your flaws, strengths, dreams, and fears. You don't expect to be hurt by your friends, and you feel awful when you hurt a friend. Majora's Mask reminds us that we need to hold a place within us for forgiveness. It's okay to forgive those that have wronged you. If not for them, then for yourself. And even when filled with regret and guilt, it's okay to forgive yourself. Thank you for making it to the end of the video. I loved making this video and it means a lot that you made it here. If you liked this video, please like, comment, and subscribe. Let me know your thoughts on the video and what game you'd like to see me play next. Check out my second channel or my Twitch page to watch me stream these games. Thank you to Marble Pawns for letting me use your Zelda remix music. He makes amazing remixes, so check out his channel. Thank you to my YouTube channel members Quinn and Chris Redbeard. And thank you to my patrons Shio, Lyra, and Eon Kane. My Patreon is free, so go ahead and follow me over there if you'd like to see what I'm up to next. But if you become a paid member on YouTube or Patreon, I'll shout you out in my videos. I'll see you guys next time. Hey, what about Navi?